Hey friends, so I have no idea how to start this. I've been debating doing some videos of like a longer format for quite some time now, but I've always been at a loss for how to start them. But thanks for joining this, and I hope that this is something helpful because I don't know, I have the opportunity in life to make some observations, I guess, and I really enjoy learning and reading and talking with people. And I think I'd like to share with you something that's been happening the past couple weeks. I have had a number of conversations with people in the local area, and even this conversation's happened a number of times over the past couple of years as well. But it seems as though, at least if you follow some sort of spiritual path, some sort of faith journey. I mean, I was raised in the Christian tradition, so of course I'm going to anchor most of my conversation right now in that. But there's a difference that happens. There's a separation, I guess you could say, between these two topics. The first being theology, which is talk about God, and spirituality, which is whatever it is that does CPR on your soul. That's the way I like to talk about it. But it seems as though there's a growing divide, and that perhaps it's something that's been happening for a long time in human history, but we are really good at separating talk about God from letting God like breathe into us. And those are two different things that have unfortunately become very separate when actually they're supposed to be very, very close. And in the midst of these conversations, I've been asking people, can you tell me the difference between theology and spirituality for you? And it's fascinating because not many people have ever been asked that question. And so it's like it's a fresh question they've never had to experience or think about before. And I find that to be maybe not disheartening, but it says something about the state of where things are. And in the midst of those conversations, I seem to keep bringing up the same two stories, or same two lessons, I guess you could say. So the first is this. There's a band I really enjoy from the Philly area called Me Without You. And on one of their albums, the album's called It's All Crazy, It's All False, It's All a Dream, It's All Right. There's a song on there about a beetle king, and he's got his little beetle colony, and then you macro out, and then you find out that they're on a farm. And over this way, on the farm, the workers are burning a pile of leaves. You zoom back into the beetle king, and the beetle king's curious about what that bright light is over there in the dark. And so he rallies the beetle kingdom and offers to pay beetles actually, to fly over, see what it is, and come back. And time again, every beetle that flies towards the fire to investigate comes back singed and burned and defeated. And after a number of times, the Beetle King just gets completely infuriated because he didn't ask people what it might be. He wanted to know what it is. And so the Beetle King gives up all of his possessions, says goodbye to the people that he knows, the beetles that he knows, and then flies directly into the fire and is consumed and changed into smoke. And the very last line of the whole song is, I'm not sure if it was intentional, but it might be from Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, who I believe is a saint, maybe not, of why not be utterly changed into fire. And it feels as though theology is a way of talking about the fire, but never really getting changed by it. Theology can become something where we use to describe experiences of God, but yet still like keep ourselves from diving into that fire. And I guess you could say that's a real tragedy. And sometimes religion becomes the thing that we can use to keep that fire at a distance. And I do think that there's something profound that's happening, and it probably does happen with every generation, but there are people that are interested in experiencing that fire and being transformed by it, but when they start to get too close to it, they do start to get singed, and so they back off, because real experiences of infinity, real experiences of goodness, beauty, truth, love, all of those things, real experiences of God, are terrifying, because they expose, and it burns, and it really brings out the things that maybe we've been trying to avoid. And so maybe that's something that Soren Kierkegaard picked up on, who's a Danish philosopher, who says, thank goodness for Christian scholasticism, for Christian theology, because by it we keep ourselves protected from God. Now that's a paraphrase, but also look that quote up, because it is scathingly sarcastic, but I think he nails it. That sometimes theology talk has come to replace actual spirituality and being completely changed by the fire that is God. So that's the first analogy, whatever you want to say. But the second one comes from, I think I've heard it attributed to Thich Nhat Hanh, who at least told the story of a guy that went to see a spiritual director. Now, a spiritual director is really nothing more than just a coach in the faith, I guess you could say. But he goes and sees the spiritual director, and the spiritual director notices that something's up. So, what's going on? And he says, I'm losing my faith. I don't know what to do. And then he says, I feel like I'm riding on a river in a raft, and my raft is starting to have more and more holes in it, and I keep trying to patch the holes up because it's a raft and it's sinking. I'm losing my faith. And the spiritual director says something really profound. He says, no, I'm not going to help you salvage your raft. And it makes the man completely uncomfortable that his spiritual director would say such a thing. But the spiritual director then says, your raft is holding you back. He says, it's not my job to help you patch your raft. It's actually my job to set it on fire. And of course, this young man is completely terrified of that. Like, what do you mean? Like, I thought you were supposed to help me salvage my faith and keep it together and da da da. And the spiritual director said back, religion can sometimes become the raft that actually keeps us from fully diving into the river. In the raft, you might get sprinkled by the water. You might experience water. You might experience the river. But my job is to help you get rid of the raft and commit to the river, to trust that the river will take you where you need to go. And this is all in an analogy for religion is a raft and God is the river. And we've got to be careful of when our theology talk is really a raft that sometimes protects us from God, that we desperately try to hold on to, but not realizing that sitting in a raft is very different from experiencing the coolness of the water, the drift of the water, the direction that it's headed. Because real faith isn't sitting in the raft. Real faith is actually diving into the river. So with these two stories together, the first one about diving into the fire that is God, and the second one is about diving into the water that is God. And I always thought those two stories were really fascinating, how they seem to keep coming up. Because I think we're hitting a time, or maybe I'm just hitting a time in my own life where there is a difference between theology and spirituality. There is a difference between religion and actual faith. Jesus himself has got some really harsh statements about people that use religion to make themselves look good, but actually never have to be confronted with their own dark side, to never actually have to be confronted with their own issues, to never have to actually change or be changed or be transformed. There's a story of Jesus. He uses a parable talking about a man that sits in the back of a sanctuary, beating his chest and saying, Lord, forgive me, I'm a sinner. All the while, up in front, there's a religious leader who says, Lord, I'm a sinner, but thank you for not making me like that crappy guy in the back. And you can hear it right there that one person has used their religion to protect them and to be seen as holy, while the other person just fully commits to not necessarily religion, but to the core about what religion is really about. So take from this what you will, okay? Think about which story resonates with you more. Either committing to the fire or committing to the water. And both of those can be analogous for God. Pay attention to when you're letting your religion keep you away from the fire or to protect you from the river. And then ask yourself, what does it mean to fully commit to diving into the fire that is God for yourself, not hiring other people to do it for you, which sometimes happens. Sometimes people go to church and they're really there because they like watching the pastors be the ones that experience God. And so they'll experience God like by proximity or through this vessel. Like this person experiences and praise God, so I'm going to come. But that's still just like the beetle king. And the beetle king needed to fly into the fire himself. But maybe then also ask yourself, in what ways are you desperately trying to salvage the raft that you were given? And it might have been good for a while, but now it's time to maybe commit to the river and start recognizing that there is a difference between sitting safely in your raft, and then committing to the river. So I'm not sure what these types of videos will be. They'll probably just be longer format, just kind of conversations like this. Maybe they're just rants or pontifications, but I hope it provides something of something to wrestle with every so often, maybe to journal about it or talk about it with a friend. So this has been the inaugural ranting video from me. So may you be blessed. May grace and peace be with you. And we'll see you next time, friends.